Jack, we need your assistance. The town's gone crazy. People are being killed. Over.
What's all these reports about circus clowns?
These clowns aren't people. They're some kind of creatures, things from another planet. Look, Jack, they're killing people. Officer Mooney is dead. I know, I saw it. He was killed by one of these things.
A small town is invaded by, well, killer clowns from outer space. For our Halloween spooktacular episode, we chat about the gumball eyes on popsicles, how Independence Day ripped off this movie, and why you shouldn't slow yourself down by describing what you're doing while being chased. Then we find out if Killer Klowns from Outer Space stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have to say, do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with a glut, and Alan says as a father blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have to say, do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have to say, do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this spooktacular episode of The Test of Time. I'm James Boorief.
And I'm Alan. No! I'm pretty sure we've made that exact joke before, but whatever, it works. It's Halloween!
I guess next year maybe you'll do, and this is Alan No. Ah!
Oh, maybe. I should, write that down. I do just want to say really quickly that last week we talked about The Witches, which is kind of a Halloween type movie, but I really wanted to talk about Killer Klowns from Outer Space. That's been on the list forever. And The Witches was also kind of like a kid's movie. It wasn't very scary. Not that this movie is terribly scary, but I just felt like I wanted to do it. So damn it, we're doing it. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about this movie once we get into it.
Yeah, no surprise to you, I'm sure. This film was made on a very low budget, Killer Klowns from Outer Space, under $2 million. And it wound up with all the subsequent sales and DVD sales, it wound up being quite a successful film. And I was wondering, have you ever heard of this film producer named Jason Blum?
Yeah, it's Blum, right?
Yeah. His entire idea is he makes very low budget films that he realizes, films don't have to make $100 million. They don't even have to make $70 million. If you make a $2 million film and it makes $12 million, I mean, that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not the first guy to think of the idea of indie or micro budget films, but his idea was that he gave the directors complete creative control. So he's had a lot of successes. You probably heard of some of the low-budget things he's done, like Paranormal Activity. That was made for like $15,000 or something and grossed $200 million.
He does mostly or exclusively horror, right?
Mostly, yeah, because the idea is that you're getting butts in the seats because of the premise, not because of the actor or actress that's in there.
Right.
Like one of his most famous films is The Purge, and he produced that. And that film, I mean, yeah, it had Ethan Hawke in it, but it put butts in the seats because people were intrigued by this premise. And a couple of years ago, there was a film called Happy Death Day. A couple other hits of his were Insidious and Sinister. And he ultimately had a huge hit with the Jamie Lee Curtis remake of Halloween, because that film opened to like $75 million or something.
Well, sequel.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's still a Blumhouse production that opened to $75 million. I mean, that is huge.
I read once, I don't know if this is always true, but that statistically, the movies that are the most profitable year in and year out in terms of not total gross, but total gross compared to budget are always horror movies because they make them for so little money. And even the ones that aren't the huge ones that you said, they just make so much money. They release them in February when there's not a ton of competition. There are enough horror fans that go and spend money on these things. In terms of percentage, they just make a lot of money.
You just don't have to have a huge turnout. I'm looking at some of the films that he's done, and it's like Ouija, Origin of Evil, and Amityville, The Awakening, and these are films that probably, putter out at like in the teens, $22 million or something. But if they cost $4 million to make, and that's not including the subsequent streaming rights and anything else you get from there, Truth or Dare, and all these other ones, like it's an easy genre. And it really reminded me of the film that we watched today, Killer Klowns from Outer Space. Except the difference is that Blumhouse productions, for the most part, are serious films that take themselves seriously as cinema. Whereas I think Killer Klowns, just in the title and the way they spell it and everything, I think the entire time it's saying, $2 million film, everyone, micro-budget film, look at this.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think the title of the movie and its spelling and like the goofy tagline, "In space, no one can eat ice cream," I think that's telling you about the tone of the movie. I don't think it's necessarily saying anything about the budget. I mean, you can tell when you watch the movie that it's a low budget, but I think it's more about what kind of movie it is. That's what it's really forecasting.
Fair enough.
But had you seen this movie before, James?
No, I never saw this film.
Well, I'm glad that I got you to watch it. Let's get into it. And the title of this movie is really kind of its own synopsis. There's an invasion of killer clowns who are from where else? Outer space. The movie takes place over just one night as these alien creatures wreak havoc on a small town. The police captain doesn't believe what's happening, so it's up to their last remaining cop, who's a good guy, and a handful of college kids to save the day. So you already mentioned its tiny budget, and it did good enough over the years at the box office, DVDs, whatever, right?
It's been released in the theaters several times since it was released in 1988, specifically May 27th, 1988. It had its heyday in VHS and DVD sales. So even a few of these sales, this stuff adds up. And on a $2 million budget, this thing has wound up making $15 million domestically and $43 million worldwide. So it's just a weird, I think, lightning in a bottle. It's the kind of thing, had this box office gross gotten a lot of press in the late 80s, you would have seen a million of these zany horror comedy films, but you really didn't. I think this is a one-off and a fluke.
Speaking of DVD sales, look what I have. I own this movie on DVD.
How do you own this film on DVD?
I must have picked it up at a Best Buy bargain bin or maybe Circuit City. I don't know, but it was probably on sale for like, $4 or something. And I was like, yeah, why not? I remember once Courtney and I went to a friend's house for Halloween and they were watching scary movies and I brought this DVD and I was like, guys, I've got a movie to watch. And we put it in, and one of the guys who was there was like really into serious horror movies. And he was like, I can't watch this. And then he took it out and we ended up watching some like really stupid prom slasher movie. Brittany Snow, maybe? It was like horrible. And I was like, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, you know what you're getting. I don't think the prom whatever was like a real serious horror movie either. I thought we could have had more fun watching what I brought. But hey, what are you going to do? So let's just get right into the movie because I'm clearly excited to talk about it. It starts at one of these like makeout points, the top of the world, I think they call it. And all of these kids are there making out. At first, I wasn't sure if they were high school kids or college kids. It seems like they're college kids. And there's an ice cream truck that shows up with a giant clown on top. And these two guys are trying to sell ice cream to the people who are making out, which definitely seems like one of those things that like idiots might think is a really good idea.
I mean, I guess maybe they're going to want something, cold to drink at some point. But I just don't think people want like, SpongeBob popsicle stick,
Well, this is 88, so this is before SpongeBob. I mean, the Rocket Pops, those are always good. Everyone likes those.
Yeah, or it could have been like, sort of Fred Flintstone that doesn't resemble Fred Flintstone at all.
And those eyeballs that they say are gumballs, but that garbage isn't gum. Like, what is that stuff?
And that did not look like Mickey Mouse. I'm sorry. Like those Mickey Mouse ice cream things with the chocolate ears. No.
No, that is true. You got to get the real ones at Disneyland or Disney World.
Yeah. So this was not a good business venture. I agree with you. It fails for a number of reasons. One, because the clientele are not really interested in ice cream. And two, because the clientele are mostly all about to be killed by alien invaders.
Well, they don't know that, but they see like a shooting star, and a couple of them decide that they're going to go and see what that was. But before they get there, there's a kooky old man and his dog who live out in the woods, and they see the shooting star. They go investigating, and wouldn't you know it, but it's a circus tent. And isn't that weird? And the guy brings his dog, looks like a kind of hound dog, really cute, and like a hole pops up in the tent, and a net comes and scoops up the dog. You assume that they kill the dog, but you never see that happen because that's just the rule in movies. You can't actually see it. But then you see a shadow of some big creature come and shoot the old man. And then the college kids get there and they decide to go in. First, though, the guy, Mike, he starts doing this like really bad like Native American impression, like an Indian chief kind of a thing. Then they get into the circus tent and he starts doing a thing about the half man, half woman and the incredible bulimic wonder. And these are just a bunch of jokes that don't age well at all.
Oh, yeah, these are jokes that did not land and landed with a big thud wherever they did land. So,
yes.
So the teens, Mike and Debbie, they find the circus tent and they go inside and they find all kinds of weird stuff in there. It's almost like the interior of a spaceship. And there's this one room, it's got these big balls of what look like cotton candy.
It's a stick of cotton candy, I guess, but it's huge. And the guy, Mike, is like, oh, well, this is just how they ship cotton candy, which is very much not true. I think I mentioned on the podcast before that I worked in a movie theater one summer. It comes in it almost looks like a milk carton, and it's just, sugar, and you pour it into the machine, and then it spins it all around, and it becomes big and stringy, and then you can put it in a bag to sell it. But if you're going to ship it, you just ship the sugar thing. You have enough in one of those containers to make 1 million sticks of the cotton candy. But this guy doesn't know about cotton candy.
Well, they do sell bagged cotton candy.
Yeah, but this cotton candy has that dead farmer guy inside. And that's when they know that something is amiss. They start running out and they are chased by these killer clowns. They shoot popcorn at them, which at first I thought was just a way to like track them because like the popcorn kind of sticks to their clothes and then kind of falls off of them a little bit and leaves a trail. But then we see later on more about what that popcorn can do. But there's also a balloon animal that one of the clowns makes, and the balloon animal comes to life and is able to sniff out where the guys ran off to, chases them, but, they're able to get away. And I guess we should take a moment to talk about the clowns themselves and what they look like. This is practical effects. These are fairly good-looking costumes. This is where these guys spent their $2 million budget. Really, it was making these costumes. I think they look pretty good now.
I wasn't that impressed. I mean, it looked like campy, ridiculous clowns. So in that regard, they don't look like something you or I would buy in Simply Halloween, those stores that pop up for, 4 weeks in October, all sales final.
I disagree. I think it looks like a really good Halloween costume.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it looks like a good Halloween costume, but it's still campy.
Right, but it's big and freaky and it works.
Works for being campy.
Yes, this movie is camp, pure and simple, 100%.
I agree with you. This is not going for the Joaquin Phoenix Joker vibe, okay?
No, of course not. So Mike and his girlfriend Debbie, they go to the police station and there's 2 cops who are there. One is Dave, who's a nice guy, who's actually Debbie's ex-boyfriend. But the other guy is Captain Mooney, played by the guy who everyone knows as Dean Vernon Wormer from Animal House. The actor's name is John Vernon, and he's been in other things, but if you've ever seen Animal House, you just immediately associate him as Dean Wormer. And in this movie, he's basically the same exact character, even down to his hatred of college students.
Oh, you could almost say that this is like the sequel of what happened to Dean Wormer after the events of Animal House in 1962. Oh, yeah. He was fired from Faber College. He needs to be a chief somewhere and, be a bully, so he winds up being chief of some small town somewhere.
He's not the chief. He does make mention of the fact that, like, the chief will be back on Monday or something, but he's like a disgruntled police captain who really just hates everybody, especially the young people.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just going to call him Dean Wormer. Officer Dean Wormer, he doesn't believe anything that's going on. And then he starts getting a lot of what he thinks are prank calls to the police station that says, "Hi, there's clowns that are jumping into our roof." Yeah, shut up. "There are clowns invading the town pool. Shut up. Prank calls are a crime." And he's just hanging up over and over and over. And we can see a montage of basically the killer clowns, who are, by the way, from outer space. They are basically taking over this small town and killing a lot of people.
Yes, and there's a good chunk of this movie that is just campy, silly, zany, whatever adjective you want to use, but different kills that these clowns are doing. There's the puppet show where there's a boy and a girl puppet, and the boy puppet's being really aggressive to the girl puppet, and she's kind of pushing him away, and then the boy puppet keeps going, and then the girl puppet takes out a ray gun and shoots the boy puppet, and then the guy who's watching this kind of laughs, but then the girl puppet aims the ray gun at him, and then the big giant clown emerges and shoots the guy. There's a pizza delivery clown who just kind of rings a doorbell, and when he says pizza, it's in like this weird alien language. It's kind of like that sort of a thing. And then it's clowns who shoot the people and turn them into cotton candy. Basically, they turn pretty much everyone into cotton candy. Some people they trap in balloons. Some people they eat as shadows. Like one clown does this big, like elaborate shadow puppet show, and then he eats the people with the shadow and then feeds them to the popcorn. There's just a lot of this kind of silliness. Were there other like good kills that you liked?
I actually quite enjoyed the one with the dinosaur shadow animal. I mean, you could tell it was just straight up animation. That's how they did it. They just drew a little cartoon over the film, but it worked because it was just shadows. So I thought that was clever. Oh, I like the one with the biker.
That's a good one where like the little tiny clown who's almost maybe a little cute in a weird way. He shows up at like this biker bar and the mean biker smashes the bike. And then the little guy like takes these boxing gloves out and he says in his little voice, "Put up your dukes." And the mean biker guy's like, "What are you going to do? Knock my block off?" And then, of course, that's exactly literally what he does. He knocks his head off.
There's another one where you have your like fry cook, teenage fry cook. He goes to the back of the burger joint and just opens the dumpster and he gets sucked in. That's as low budget as they get,
Yes, that one is like kind of lame because you really see nothing. There's one killer clown who runs a guy off the road and like his car flips over and it's not the greatest car crash. And I saw on the IMDb trivia that it was kind of like a mistake and that was just as good as they could do it. They didn't have enough budget to, redo it. That was their one car crash and it's kind of lame, but yeah, it's what they got.
A lot of the characters kind of look similar. They're all like 80s looking white people.
It's true.
I don't believe there's a single person of color in this film. No one in the main cast.
Maybe like in the background somewhere, but you're right. Not as a main character, no.
Yeah, and I kind of mixed up some of the characters, and I actually thought that the teenager that is killed in that car crash, because the crash was so lame, and the car, like, you weren't even sure that even anyone was hurt in it, I was like, oh, that must be the main character because he survives this crash. That must be Mike. And then like it just blows up. So I go, okay, maybe not.
Right. Debbie is back at her house, like after her ordeal. Mike and Dave, her current boyfriend and ex-boyfriend, go out to explore, and she goes home and takes a shower, and the popcorn that the clowns shot at her becomes like alive, and they start attacking her in her bathroom. Like a couple of them are in her hamper, and then there's one in the toilet, and then there's two that like pop out of the medicine cabinet, but she's able to escape.
I actually paused that and I was thinking, wow, that's actually surprisingly good CGI for 1988. And then I realized, no, that's not CGI at all. That was stop motion photography. Sort of like, I'm sure we'll review this film eventually, but have you ever seen Army of Darkness?
Of course I have. Oh my God, yeah. I'll make a note for October 2021. Maybe we'll do the Evil Dead trilogy.
That could be fun.
That could be a lot of fun. I'm putting it down.
Yeah, so Army of Darkness is one of those kind of films. The popcorn kernels, they were really cool. I thought that was very well done. I was surprised.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like you said, Captain Mooney, who's Dean Vernon Wormer, he doesn't believe anything that's happening as the 911 calls are coming in. He does have one great line where he's kind of complaining to all of the people who are calling. He says, "Frig yous all," which I just thought was great. But then a killer clown shows up at the police station, and Mooney tries to arrest him. For some reason, the clown is like kind of going along with it and like allows Mooney to put the handcuffs on him. But then, of course, his hands fall off and, his hands are free. He goes into the jail cell with these two other guys who Mooney picked up for loitering or being drunk in public or something. And only once the clown is in jail, then he does like the reach out grabby thing, grabs Mooney, throws him into the bars of the jail. And then when Dave, the good cop, shows up, he finds those two other suspects are in cotton candy, and the captain is dead, and the clown is basically using him as a dummy, doing like a ventriloquist move on him, saying, "Don't worry, all you have to do is die."
Well, what it's basically doing is it's doing what they do at Independence Day, but 8 years earlier. Seriously,
Right.
It's the aliens finally giving a little bit of explanation of what they want to do. And it's actually the exact same explanation as the aliens in Independence Day. They basically say that we've come to kill you all. That's it. No explanation needed more than that.
A little bit later on, they're kind of theorizing about the clowns and what they're doing there. And one guy kind of says, maybe they're just cruising around the galaxy and they stopped here for a snack. And that's sort of what they are implying is like their reason for coming. It's not really explicitly clear, and it doesn't really matter at all. But you're right. I mean, it is definitely Independence Day-esque. And it is also kind of a callback to earlier in the movie when the captain is yelling at Dave when he's like going to take the claims of the killer clown seriously. He's like, okay, we'll go check it out. And Mooney's like, you can go out there and make yourself look like a dummy, but no one will ever make a dummy out of me. But then later they do make a dummy out of him. Ba-dum-bum.
That.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Dean Wormer was a good sport for playing along with this film.
Yeah.
So Dave confronts the clown that's holding the ventriloquist officer Dean Wormer, and a fight ensues, and Dave manages to shoot off a few rounds of his revolver, and nothing affects the clown. You have a sort of Jason, Freddy Krueger, the supernatural, the bullets don't hurt him, except he does have an Achilles heel, or should I say, an Achilles nose.
Ah, I see what you did there.
Yep.
Yeah, he hits him in the nose and he like spins into a green whirling dervish kind of a thing and then blows up.
My guess is that the special effects team had like 3 buttons on their special effects counter, which was like star wipe and then neon lights go everywhere. And he hit the neon lights go everywhere button. And then that's what happens. The cloud just kind of explodes.
A star wipe is not a special effect. Maybe in 1988 they were.
Yeah. I mean, it was the kind of special effects you'd see on like your home video.
Yes. It's very, very low budget. But while Dave is confronting the clown at the police station, Mike bumps into the Terenzi brothers. Those are the guys who had the ice cream truck. And he kind of looks to them for help. And the Terenzi brothers at first don't believe him about there are killer clowns from outer space, but they see all of these clowns marching through the streets, collecting all of the cotton candy people that they've gotten. And then the clowns show up at Debbie's house to put her in a balloon, not in the cotton candy thing. For some reason, she's not the only person in the movie that's in a balloon, but it seems like that's like the special treatment for whatever reason. It just doesn't kill her instantly, which is what we care about because that's what the other characters care about. But they take her to the amusement park, and there's a security guard who's working there, and the tiny little clown car shows up, and all of these big giant clowns get out. It's just a clown car gag of tiny little car, lots of clowns get out. I did think that was like a cool thing that they put that in the movie. Like they had to do a clown car gag.
Now, I'm asking you as a father, is the circus a thing? Like, I know the animals aren't there anymore. Before coronavirus, did you ever take your children to see Barnum and Bailey or Ringling Brothers, that kind of thing?
Yes, we took my son when he was like a baby, maybe like 1 or 2, and they don't really come around much anymore. I think my parents took him or maybe both kids a few years ago. Yeah, it's definitely not a big deal anymore. But I will say, like, the final act of this movie taking place at an amusement parks stand the test of time more than circuses, which really are not that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah, and you know that guard that sees the clown car gag, I do like how he's killed, because he's killed with like a dozen pies, like cream pies thrown at him. And, you know, that's kind of funny, whatever, but it turns out that the pies, I guess, are acidic or something, because
I guess
the next scene you only see a skeleton arm sticking out.
Yeah, because the good guys are in pursuit. They go into this fun house. I think they call it like a crazy house or something. That's where they're like debating about like, who are these guys? Where do they come from? And Mike and Dave tell the Terenzi brothers, don't run off. We got to stick together. And then immediately the Terenzi brothers just like fall through a hole in the floor. And they meet these girl clowns. And we don't really see what happens to them. Like in one scene, they're in like this ball pit and there are these girl clowns who are kind of like, hi. And then the next time we see them, you like that?
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, thank you. And the next time we see them, they're alive and covered with like big kisses, like lipstick marks all over them. So presumably these killer clowns don't want to kill the boys. They just want to smooch on them.
It was very reminiscent of the female gremlin scene in Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Yes, definitely. Which was also a couple years after this movie, right?
Right, I think that's like 1990 or so.
I just looked it up. It is 1990.
And, you know, we also find out something else about the clown's motive, because the whole time I'm thinking that this is something like out of Aliens, as in Ellen Ripley, Aliens franchise, where the aliens kind of, they kill some humans, but other humans they capture and kind of cocoon them, and they use them to make other aliens. Mm-hmm. And there is one point in this film when they kind of tear open some of the cotton candy, and there's like a disfigured person inside. So I was thinking, oh, maybe this is how they make more clowns. But at the amusement park, one of the clowns reaches towards one of these cotton candy fixtures and just shoves a crazy straw, one of those wacky straws. You know, it's a straw that you suck in it and it goes like, you know, a lot of different directions before it goes in your mouth.
Yeah, crazy straw.
A crazy straw. And presumably he's sucking all of the blood out of the human that is cocooned inside.
Right. So that does lend credence to the theory that they were just going through the galaxy and they stopped at Earth for a snack. It's not entirely clear how the people in the balloons are a different kind of snack, but it's also not entirely clear how Debbie has been in a balloon all of this time without oxygen, and then Mike and Dave free her after that one clown with the crazy straw leaves the room. Dave shoots the balloon and it explodes and she's like, oh, I couldn't breathe. It's like, it had to have been 20 minutes, half an hour without oxygen, but she's okay, so whatever.
I was trying to make a theory of what those balloons are for, and I assume that when you want to eat salmon for a long time and you find a big patch of salmon, yeah, you eat a lot of them, but you have to save a few of them for, like, breeding purposes. So I thought that they were saving some of the humans that they would take away to make more snacks.
Oh, that's clever. I appreciate that. But then they should give them some oxygen. So then there's a chase scene through the spaceship because they're on the spaceship. The funhouse was like a tunnel into the spaceship. And there's another classic clown gag where they see a door and they open it up and behind the one door is another door. And they keep saying, it's another door.
It's like, another door, another door, another door.
Like, why do they keep saying it? Like, we can see it. They can see it. They don't need to say it out loud every single time.
And they waste like 2 seconds by opening the door, and they don't open the subsequent door until they finish saying, another door? And then they open it. Let me wait 2 more seconds to say, hey guys, it's another door? Yeah, I mean, these killer clowns who are from outer space are chasing you. So, just open. And afterwards, you might comment, hey guys, that was a crazy amount of doors.
But they don't even have a chance to make that comment because once they get through all the doors, they are surrounded by killer clowns from outer space. Like on all sides, they have to climb up this little tower and there's a million of them surrounding them. It's a thing that you've seen like in every zombie movie. They did that in Game of Thrones. There's just no way out. They are completely surrounded. But then the Terenzi brothers show up. They drive through a wall somehow.
Yeah, and on top of the Terenzi brothers' ice cream truck is a huge clown head. It sort of resembles, if any of our listeners have ever played the PlayStation series Twisted Metal, it sort of looks like one of those crazy clown trucks like that. And they have a microphone on there, so they just try to pretend that they're sort of like the Great Wizard of Oz, and they're basically trying to instruct the clowns like, I am your leader, stand down, and it only buys them like 20 seconds.
Right, but then the guys are able to run towards the ice cream truck. They get inside, and then this huge giant creature comes down from the roof. And I only know this name because I saw it on Wikipedia, but apparently this character is Jojo the Clownzilla. They don't say that in the movie.
I just assumed he was King Clown.
I mean, that also makes sense. It's one of the Chiodo brothers. There's 3 of them who wrote, produced, and directed this movie. I forget which one, but one of them is the guy in that suit. And this giant clown starts like punching the ice cream truck, and Mike and Debbie and Dave are able to escape, but the Terenzi brothers stay inside, and it seems like they're dead because this giant clown like smashes the poor ice cream truck. So, Mike wants to go and check on his friends, but Dave is like, no, you can't. It's too late. They're already gone. And this big giant clown is going to kill the 3 of them. But then Dave decides to be the hero. He says, Mike, you take Debbie. You escape. You save her. I'll create a distraction. And they're like, no, you can't. And he says, I must. And it's kind of a love triangle thing because Dave is the ex-boyfriend and he's a little jealous of Mike, who's the new boyfriend. But he says, you're with Debbie now, so you have to take care of her. I'll be the guy who stays behind and sacrifices himself to the giant clown. It's a romantic gesture. You've seen it in a million movies or whatever. But Mike and Debbie are able to escape, and Dave is unable to shoot this giant clown in the nose for some reason, because before he had pretty good aim with his shotgun.
And the King Clown's nose is presumably a lot bigger than everyone else's nose.
Yes, exactly. And he still has like some bullets left, even though he's like been firing that shotgun a lot and we don't ever see him reload it. but whatever. And the end, when he's shooting at the giant clown, he's using his handgun. But when the giant clown picks him up and is about to eat him, then close range, Dave is able to unsnap his like police badge and then pop the nose right there. And that causes the giant clown and the entire spaceship to explode. In the air. It took off, I guess I should have mentioned.
And everyone is dead. No, it turns out that the spaceship that was just above us exploding did not contain the people that we care about, because suddenly the clown car appears on the ground and out steps Dave. Yay, Dave's there.
And the Terenzi brothers.
Whoa, as a bonus.
Yeah. Apparently in the original ending, it was just the Terenzi brothers who managed to escape. But then in test screenings, people wanted it to be a happier ending. So they wrote it that Dave escapes too. It's kind of surprising to me that people cared that much.
You don't want that kind of ending. You want the randos to die. You don't want anyone that you actually cared about to die. I think that was a very good move on the producer's part. That this is one of those times when, yes, go for the everything works out, except for all the dozens of people that are dead. But other than them, everything works out for the people we care about.
Right. It is a little bit weird as like the three of them, Mike, Dave, and Debbie, are like kind of hugging, because Dave, who's, remember, the ex-boyfriend, kind of like gives like Debbie like a kiss on the back of the head. He kind of like nuzzles into her hair. It's not just like a, oh, I'm so glad you're alive, it's good to see you kind of a hug. Like the three of them are all like hugging together. I wonder if this is like a 1980s like throuple kind of a thing that they're hinting at.
Heavily hinting at.
Yes. But then they're like, oh, is that it? And then they say, yeah, that's it. But then some pies come from off screen and hit them all in the face. And then the movie ends on, you guessed it, a freeze frame.
Doesn't that mean that they all like liquefy except for their bones?
If it's the same kind of pies that the security guard got hit with, then yes. But I assume we are meant to believe that these are just regular pies for some reason, because it's a happy ending. So that is the end of Killer Klowns from Outer Space. James, I am itching with curiosity to know, do you think this movie stands the test of time?
First I'm going to say I think this movie was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Well, not exactly what I thought it was going to be, because I'll say that I was a little bit impressed with some of those special effects. Not the lasers, all that stuff was incredibly lame. Well, not lame, it was low budget, which was fine. I thought the stop motion photography was really good. I thought that was, I would say, even impressive. And I liked seeing John Vernon. I like seeing him get a paycheck, because yeah, he's always great as Dean Wormer. And that's about it. I mean, the rest of it, it's kitschy. I get it. I get what it's going for. I have to admit, I watched this alone.
Aw. No balloon animals or anything?
No, in the daytime. And maybe had I watched it with a group of people, I might have had a little more fun with it. But it's a silly little film that you don't really need to watch if you haven't seen it. I can see why fans like this film. I do. But, you know, this film actually made me appreciate another film that you and I said no to, also because it was a little too kitschy and campy. The film Tremors. That's this film, but with like professional actors and a little bit better budget for effects. It is what it is. It's Killer Klowns, clowns with a K, from outer space. And you get what you paid for, which is, you know, nothing right now on Amazon Prime. I guess, you know, you're paying your Prime membership.
Or if you have it on DVD.
Or if you have it on DVD, you just paid what you paid a couple of years ago. If you haven't seen this film and you're not super into the campiness experience of 1980s low-budget sci-fi horror comedy films, then no, I think you could skip this film. So I'm going to have to say that my verdict is no. Killer Klowns from Outer Space does not stand the test of time, though it has some charms. That's the best I'm going to say for this film.
Okay.
Al, what do you think? Does this film stand the test of time?
So I want to talk about the word camp a little bit because I genuinely think that this is the first real camp movie we have ever talked about in this podcast. I see what you're saying about Tremors. I think that's more of like comedy action. I think you could maybe make the claim that Batman and Robin is more pure camp. Maybe Gremlins 2, the new batch. But I really feel like this movie, it's definitely the campiest out of every movie we've ever talked about. And I looked this up because I was just trying to like get my head around the word camp and what it means. And apparently Webster's dictionary defines it as banality, mediocrity, artifice, and ostentation so extreme as to amuse or to have a perversely sophisticated appeal. And this other writer, Susan Sontag, said that its key elements are artifice, frivolity, naive middle-class pretentiousness, and shocking excess. And I was like, yeah, that's this movie. It is pure camp. And the thing is, it was pure camp in 1988, and it's pure camp today. The campiness didn't lessen. It didn't strengthen either, but I think it pretty much stayed exactly the same. A lot of the times in this podcast, when we talk about movies that are like comedies that don't age so well, that's because they're going for one type of humor and, 20, 30, 40 years later, it just doesn't work. This kind of campiness, being so over the top, everything that happens in this movie is insane. The characters know that it's insane. They frequently talk about like how ridiculous it is that these things look like clowns. Like, why do they look like clowns? Like, they have that little conversation, which I think does help. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's the exact same level of camp and ridiculousness now as it was back then. So on a very literal way, I have to say that it does stand the test of time. Like you say, you know what you're getting with the title like Killer Klowns from Outer Space. That's the same now as it was then. Yeah, I think I have to say, yes, it does stand the test of time.
I see what you're saying, and I just don't think for me it just wasn't an entertaining enough film. I agree with you that it definitely fulfills the definition of camp. And I think, for our tastes, 1 and 1 is a good verdict for this film.
Yes, it is a rare time when you say no and I say yes. That doesn't happen very often, but for special occasions, like Killer Klowns from Outer Space, apparently. Well, that's going to do it for our Halloween episode. Next week, we're going to talk about something that's maybe scarier? ? In honor of the United States election, we are going to be talking about the 1995 movie, The American President. I should clarify that that movie isn't scary, I don't think, but like the real American president is scary, just if that wasn't clear.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that film. It's an Aaron Sorkin classic. And have you seen this film?
No, I haven't seen it. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to think about something other than the presidential election. I mean, it's obviously tangentially related. That's why we're doing it. But yeah, it'll be nice to just see a movie about a different American president, one who I assume I will like more than our current American president. So stay tuned for that one. Make sure you're subscribed on whatever app you're listening to us on. We want you to talk to us at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tell us your thoughts on Killer Klowns from Outer Space, on camp in general, on creatures that suck your blood while you're trapped in a cotton candy cocoon. And you can always email us at the testoftimepodcast@gmail.com. If you haven't already done it, don't forget to vote. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Bye. Ooh,
No, that doesn't work.